Hello, everyone. This is Kyle with DJI Enterprise. Excited to talk a little bit more today about Dock 3 and the Matrice 4D that we just recently launched. We are wrapping up or just finished a different webinar earlier this morning, just a moment ago, when we were talking about public safety with some of our other colleagues. So, as people may be transitioning away from that webinar and might be coming in here or just seeing a couple extra minutes, we'll take one more minute as people kind of funnel into the waiting room here. So perfect. Some housekeeping while we are waiting and giving an extra minute or so. This meeting will be recorded, so we're going to be publishing this at a later time. You'll be able to see it on our YouTube channel as well as some of our other social media. There's also a Q&A box, so if you want to go ahead and drop questions and answers in, we will try to save some time at the end for Q&A, as well as being able to take anything that gets submitted, exporting those, and answering those at a later time and following up. Looks like we do have some raised hands. Cool. And if you want to, feel free to drop in the chat where you're logging in from or where you've been most recently flying drones at. For me personally, living in Eastern Iowa, I've been doing quite a bit more flying with a Smart 3D capture flight plan here in Eastern Iowa over a number of different assets. So cool. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our new product. With that, that is the new DJI Dock 3, the third generation of our standalone solution to be able to go and capture data very, very simply. So quick teaser video, like many of you have already seen on our social media. But as we get into where DJI is with remote operations, Dock 1, that is actually right when I started at DJI. That was pretty much 3 years ago. Apologies, I started in 2022. That was the Matrice 30T, but we released it 1 year after I was here. The start of automation in April of 2023, and that was with the Dock 1. We did quite a bit of learning when it came to Dock 1 and what people did like, what people didn't like, and we simplified things. We simplified and also made significantly smaller. So you see Dock 2, small and tough. It becomes a very affordable solution both for inspection and public safety and for the surveying, mapping, and GIS side of the world, depending on which drone selection that you are going for. And as we get into Dock 3, we've both taken what we've learned from Dock 1 and Dock 2 and refined those, as well as added a lot more intelligent capabilities. And so let's talk about the new intelligent features as well as the hardware with Dock 3. As an overview for Dock 3, we can look at the different regulatory compliances that we have, both on the US and the EU side. We also have enhanced data security. We'll be talking about all of these in a little bit more detail and a little bit more depth here in a moment. Also some intelligent flight modes with FlightHub 2. Being very robust and reliable hardware platform, we know that these docks are getting installed in some extreme environments, cold, hot, precipitation, both rain, snow. We know that these need to be able to support those environments and still operate. Superior performance, you're going to see some improvements there, especially when it comes to public safety. And then also with our accessory package that we released, not just the dock, not just the drone, but some other tools that are going to make the whole solution a lot easier. So let's talk a little bit about mastering all of the environments with Dock 3 and some of the improvements on Dock 3 over Dock 2. When we look at the improvements, we are a little bit larger footprint, but with that, we have a much more heavy duty air conditioning and heating system that are in there. That's kind of why that you have a little bit larger footprint. Overall, significantly smaller than Dock 1. We do have an improvement on operation temperature, being able to get a little bit colder and a little bit hotter, as well as an ingress protection rating bump of IP56 over an IP55 with Dock 2. We also have a nice improvement on max allowable wind speed. I've actually noticed this here in the spring in the Midwest United States, where we just have a lot of breezy days, especially in the afternoon. We're trying to go out and map. And if we're looking at Dock 2, where once you're hitting about 18 miles per hour, that's the cap off speed for a safe auto landing. And now we've improved that up to 27-mile-per-hour wind speed. So while the drone was able to handle a lot of winds, now the landing and the dock can also handle that type of wind. The charging time, some nice improvements there. Just a couple minutes, as well as getting a little bit more percent into the battery of the drone. If we look a little bit further around the dock, let's talk about some of the other improvements. We now have more of a sloped roof. That's going to help out with mainly with snow. So if you're getting some snow precipitation on top, I have Dock 1 sitting in my yard, and we did get some precipitation on those really heavy precipitation days where you're getting over an inch to 2 inches per hour. That we were just seeing snow build up. And so with this 8-inch tilt, as well as some extra heating capabilities, overall the tilt really helps being able to get snow to just kind of slide off. We also have a Type-C port for future expansion. We have a semi-transparent board, so you're going to be able to see it without having to open up the little door there, and our classic weather station. So the main improvements there, just being able to see what it looks like and the nice tilt to the cover. If we look from the top down, we do have a couple different indicators. We've got the home indicator for precision landing. Right in the very center, we also have our wireless charging module. You will notice that there are that the air conditioning unit is blowing air out of those two little vents. That's going to help cool the battery off to make sure that we can charge the battery even quicker. We also have moved the RTK antenna outside of the dock. That's going to help you with much faster RTK connectivity. What I have and I've seen that firsthand with one of our Dock 3 implementations, and being able to just get RTK fix very quickly and be able to take off. We also have the cellular dongle too. That is going to be something that's not currently supported in the US, but we do know that there's a number of people here that are in North America. Canada, I have seen a number of good use cases within Canada for the cellular dongle with DJI, so there's another nice improvement there. So as we take a little bit closer look, like I said, Dock 3 being able to tackle some of these harsh environments. We've got a nice waterproof test. We can see we've got an IP56 rating, a nice bump from IP55, being able to fly in those very difficult environments. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, the 12 meters per second wind resistance, being able to take off and land even in the 27-mile-per-hour winds. We also have anti-icing propellers. That's something a little bit more about the Matrice 4D, but that's going to help out in those situations where you're getting a lot of precipitation right around or a lot of humidity right around the freezing point, and you're getting propeller freeze. So anti-icing propellers help out there. And then also the operating range. We've put a Dock 3, many different Dock 3s, basically in a giant freezer as well as a giant heat room, and being able to operate even with some icing on the dock up to 10 millimeter, being able to just open up and still operate. Some fun tests to be able to see. One of the other improvements that we have wanted to be able to really focus on is how fast that we can get a drone operational from a dock and airborne. That use case is very important for public safety. So when a call comes in or when an action needs to be taken, how fast can a drone be able to respond to that situation? That is greatly improved both with the RTK module on the outside of the dock, as well as some other updated improvements. So with that, we have a 10-second takeoff speed, where if you need to get the drone just up and in the air and you manually flying the drone, you're going to be able to do that very, very quickly. We have a little video showing you what the UI looks like in FlightHub 2 when you hit go. Basically get the drone and the dock, and this is with the drone and the dock already powered on, but it should always just, you can set it to have it be sitting on, and 10.93 second takeoff. And if you compare that to Dock 2, we were sitting at, there we are, about 20 seconds. So a improvement of twice as fast. We've also heard a lot of different use cases, not just public safety focused, but a number of different use cases of people wanting to be able to have a dock that's mounted in a vehicle that can be remotely deployed. Something that isn't focused on sitting on a job site for 3, 6, 12 plus months. And then move around from job site to job site. If you want something that can be remotely deployed, you can just have a vehicle sitting there, drop off a vehicle that has a dock sitting in the back of it, or just an emergency response vehicle. That's going to be super simple, and we can do that now with the Dock 3. There is a couple other features that we'll have to talk about when we talk about deploying anywhere, and that is a mount that goes on the inside of the Dock 3. So we'll check that in the accessories, but I do want to make sure people know that when you go for mobile deployment, it does require an additional mobile deployment mount that goes on the inside. But we do have, when it comes to mobile deployment, we have gone through and really ruggedly tested to see what needs to be improved. First off, vibration. You're going to be driving this dock around very often, very frequently, and while the dock is sitting there, the vehicle might be also sitting there and just running, keeping the vehicle warm. So we need to be able to operate this drone and this dock in a area that has a significant amount of vibration. We've been able to test that. Remote RTK calibration, being able to remotely calibrate RTK, being able to recalibrate RTK very quickly whenever you would move. A horizontal angle detection, so that's going to be able to understand if it's even safe for the dock to open up and if the drone to come down and land. And if you look at the different use cases, definitely drone as the first responder. But if we get into asset inspections, even if you're doing something like transmission lines or railway where you're doing long linear corridors, being able to just drive the vehicle and have the drone take off, land, and then move forward, take off, land, and then keep moving forward. So, and then also when you get into multi-site construction monitoring, not having to have that dock at a fixed location. We look at, I believe this is a video here, just highlighting being able to pull right up, and on FlightHub 2, being able to turn on vehicle mount, reconfigure the RTK, and then go ahead and take off. Very simple. No longer have to hop out with a controller, reconfigure it, and go. It can all be done within FlightHub 2. And that's as easy as that. When it goes through that dock calibration, it's doing making sure that, like we talked about earlier, it can get RTK, that it's going to be safe for the dock to open up, it's going to be safe for the aircraft to take off. We also have a dual dock deployment option. This would be something that I would love to see pictures of, but being able to have 2 docks per vehicle, that's going to be able to help out with continuous operation. So while one drone is flying, the other drone would be charging, and they just kind of flip flop or switch back and forth. If you need to keep a drone always in the air. And then when it comes into precise landing, we really need to make sure that this drone lands back in the dock and lands back in the dock safely and be able for it to wirelessly charge. So 3 different ways that we're able to help automate and help safely land the drone. The first one is RTK technology. That one is fairly straightforward from the sense of you're getting positional accuracy down to within a couple inches. So we should be able to get that drone over the dock very, very accurately. That's not going to get us all of the way there, but RTK really does help be able to get the drone positioned where it should be within a couple inches. From there, we have a couple different, got a video here. The other two things that are going to be able to help it really come in and land precisely. We have visual slam sensors on the very bottom of the drone, and that's going to help it understand where the dock is. So now we're going from a couple inch accuracy with RTK to really finding and honing in on that dock. And the final way of it really understanding where the dock is those home, that H on the very bottom of the dock 3, as well as some of the other indicator markers. From those visual indicator markers, it's going to understand where it needs to land. So you can see as it comes down, we're hovering right over that H, and it's staying locked in on that H. There we are. So utilizing RTK, SLAM, and visual icon recognition to be able to really hammer in those landings, whether it's a fixed dock location or a vehicle mounted dock location. Now, this is the last slide for this section, but it is one that I am really excited about and is maybe a little bit underappreciated. But if for someone that has installed a couple of docks before, historically with Dock 1 and Dock 2, you were required to use one of the drone's controllers to be able to set up that deployment. Obviously, having that drone's controller there is very valuable because you can use that as controller B. But if you don't want to have to utilize the controller to set it up, you now have a new DJI Enterprise Android app. And that app is going to be able to set up the dock completely remotely. So if you have someone that has a Samsung Galaxy that you can install it on, you can do the deployment there. Or if you are looking to utilize just the controller like you historically have, this app can be installed on the controller. Much like the Pilot 2 app for flying the drone is installed, you can quit that app and then load in the new DJI Enterprise app. This app is also going to be functional with the DRTK3 if you're looking to do tagging ground control points and checkpoints, things like that. But this app is also functioned for setting up dock deployments now. So that being said, being able to just have an Android device, any Android device that can install this app and then be able to set up the dock just really makes it a lot easier than having to fumble and find that controller to do a new calibration if needed. So let's get into the hardware that's flying. Why do we have a dock? For the drone, so that we can have a house for the drone. Let's talk a little bit more about those drones. We did release two different drones, very similar. The only difference is going to be payload. Let me take a drink here. So when we look at the Matrice 4D, we have a couple different statistics here and improvements over the Matrice 3D. A nice improvement on max flight time, operating temperature, as well as our transmission distance, being able to utilize OcuSync 4 plus Enterprise. But let's dive a little bit deeper on the actual cameras. So when we get into the payloads, it's going to be very similar to the Matrice for Enterprise and the Matrice for Thermal. So with the Matrice 4 Enterprise and the Matrice 4 Dock, you're going to have that triple camera setup with the laser range finder. So with the triple camera setup, you have the 4/3 inch wide camera. That's a improvement over the Matrice 3D from the aspect of trigger speed. So improvements from 0.7 now to 0.5 seconds. And we have the ability of the gimbal when mapping, if you're doing a smart oblique, to be able to move left and right. So you're doing those 5-axis capture all at one time. It also is an important aspect when it comes into smart 3D capture, being able to capture all sides of the asset and having that gimbal move around. It does have a mechanical shutter, something that we find very valuable for surveying and mapping. And we also now have in-camera distortion correction compared to the Matrice 3D. So then the other two cameras are really meant for inspection purposes, being able to zoom in from a very far distance away. The improvement having a now not just a 1x and a 7x, but we also have a nice 3x, a mid-tele camera, so that we can get the inspections where you're looking at, about probably 5 to 20 meters away, or about 15 to 50 feet away. If you're doing any asset inspections, you're probably going to be using that mid-range camera. And before, that would just be a digital crop in on the wide angle camera, but now we have that mid-tele zoom. And then the far tele camera, that the 168 millimeter equivalent focal length sensor, that is going to be able to zoom beyond 100 times zoom. And so if you are looking to do even further inspection, read license plates, things like that, where you're going to be far off the asset or the object or the subject, then it's just more improvements compared to the Matrice 3D. And then we also have the laser rangefinder. There's a number of different tools that the laser rangefinder brings in. Some of those being FlightHub 2, some of those being Pilot 2, and being able to make measurements and do some of the other, a couple other features we'll talk about here in a little bit, in a little bit, but a nice improvement when you see the laser rangefinder. When we get into the thermal side, so something that's going to be more focused on inspection and public safety, we now have quite the camera setup solution. It's very similar to the Matrice 4T, where you have a thermal camera. That thermal camera is 640 by 512 with a super resolution setting of 1280 by 1024. Then we have the wide, mid-tele, and tele sensors there. The wide sensor, it is a rolling shutter compared to the Matrice 4D and a smaller sensor size, but we were able to then pack in that thermal camera as well. But if you do look at the actual sensors compared to the Matrice 3TD or DT, apologies, the sensor size on the wide tele and the mid tele have all improved. So if you're looking at low light functionality, public safety, you're going to get improvements across pretty much all of these sensors. We also have a laser rangefinder in there because a lot of the measurements and a lot of the drop pin locations are also going to be valuable when it comes to inspection and public safety. And we have a near infrared auxiliary light. So if you are looking to illuminate the scene so that you can see it, shouldn't say illuminate the scene. If you are looking to be able to see something within that is very, very dark, if you have zero ambient light, we now have that near infrared auxiliary light that when you go into the zoom sensor, that tele camera, it has an IR cut filter. And so now we are able to turn on that NIR light. The naked eye, we're not going to be able to see anything. You wouldn't even see the spotlight, but on the camera, on the actual FPV, you're going to be able to illuminate the scene. So using a near infrared light to illuminate it, so your naked eye can't see it, but the camera can. When we look at the camera performances compared to the Matrice 3D, we now have a larger sensor size with a larger or more effective pixels. Now we're going from 12 megapixels up to a 48 megapixel sensor, and that's really important because of our sensor size improvement. Trying to cram too many megapixels on a small sensor can cause quite a bit of noise, but with the sensor size improvement, that has really, really helped. We also have our night scene mode. That's where I was kind of stumbling around a little bit, but trying to tell you about the near infrared tools as well as the night scene mode. So much like the Matrice 4E or 4T, all of this functionality is available within FlightHub 2 as well. So you can operate just like if you were standing next to the drone. With that, the night scene mode, that is essentially going to bump your frame rate of your video feed down. You could either bump it to medium, which is 15 frames per second, or have high, which is 5 frames per second. So quite a bit of, you're getting a bit of jitteriness, but with that, since you're lowering that frame rate, it allows for more ambient light to actually hit the sensor before it ends up being live streamed back. So with that, we're going to be able to see in very dark environments a lot easier utilizing this new night scene mode by essentially just bringing down your frame rate. You can also have the toggles for the IR cut filter and NIR illumination all within FlightHub 2. So this operation is really ready to go today. It's also, this is one that I'm very excited about too. It's also ready for upwards inspection. We're getting a lot of people that have been asking about bridge inspections. How can we look up easier? With that, since our camera on the Matrice 4T, the zoom sensor is on the very bottom. The 7x tele zoom sensor is on the very bottom of the sensor array or the payload package. And since it's at the very bottom, we can actually tilt it up even farther without it seeing basically the drone's, the top of the drone. And we're going to be able to get up to a positive 80 degrees. So almost looking straight up. So if you are looking to be able to get underneath an asset and look and inspect underneath it straight up, you're going to be able to get very close to that with that new improvement of 80 degrees. And that is specifically for the 7x tele camera on the M4TD, because that sensor is sitting quite a bit lower. We also are getting a nice extended flight time there. Just an improvement of, just a nice like spec improvement that you would typically see going from Dock 2 to Dock 3, 3 minutes, from 51 minutes up to 54 minutes. But we do have a lower return to home battery, down to 15%. That's going to be very similar to what you're used to if you've been piloting on FlightHub 2 or piloting in Pilot 2 already. So now we can allow the drone to fly down to 15%, have it return to home, and have even longer operations if needed. Really stretch that flight. We also have real-time terrain follow. And a lot of these features we have maybe talked about before on the Matrice 4E or the Matrice 4T, and those functions being able to be done within Pilot 2. But just all of these functions, remember that we now can do them in FlightHub 2 as well. Not just Pilot 2 on the controller if you are flying manually, but all these same features are now supported within FlightHub 2. So now you can efficiently map the site and safely map the site and know that you're getting accurate coverage when it comes to photogrammetry and processing of that data, and just safe operations. Got a nice video showing you, looks like being able to scan over a mine and the drone actually dropping altitude automatically. We also, I just keep saying also because we've got a lot of really good stuff, but this is something that I think a lot of people were asking about with our previous version. And now we've heard you, we understand, and we've brought the Matrice 4D series as a standalone product. So if you are looking to have this drone and you aren't necessarily concerned or interested in remote operations, but you do really like the form factor of this drone, essentially this drone is a Matrice 4E, but is IP rated. If you need that IP rating for your drone, then you can buy this drone standalone. You can see we've got a nice case there, a nice backpack, very similar or almost reminiscent of the Phantom days, just not being able to obviously fold the legs in. That's going to have some benefits for dock operations as well as IP rating. But if you do need to be able to kind of have a smaller kit, then you're going to want foldable legs with the Matrice 4E. So if you need IP rating, we do have that solution in a standalone platform now. You will want the RC Plus 2 Enterprise to be able to fly the drone, obviously. That's some nice video of a DJI branded backpack, and it's a hard shell, like a hard Pelican backpack with some nice padding, so it is comfortable to wear on the back. And one final thing for this section when it comes to intelligent flight modes with the Matrice 4, that the Matrice 4D version, you are able to utilize this drone with an onboard relay. So if you are trying to have multiple drone operations and you need to use one drone as a signal booster or as a repeater for another drone that maybe needs to descend over the edge of the other side of a mountain for search and rescue operations, instead of having to have a third party go up and have a mast that you'd have to send up, or having to mount a DRTK3. Now you can just have a drone sit, hover over at the top of the hill, and then have the second drone be able to use the first drone as a repeater and then go into the valley and still maintain safe operations. And how that's done, you will set that up in Pilot 2. You'll prepare two sets, so you're going to obviously need two drones, so two M4Ds or two M4DTs, and then you'll set one up as the relay drone and one up as the worker drone. I think we have a nice screen recording showing what that looks like. Yeah, flying really far away. And essentially using that other drone as a repeater. So we've talked about the mastering all environments when it comes to Dock 3 and the improvements there. Then we talked about the Matrice 4D and the superior performance of that drone and the improvements when it comes to the payload and sensors. Now let's talk about the intelligent operations, and a lot of that comes from FlightHub 2, which is the website, the platform that you're going to be using to interact with both the dock and the drone. With that, we're going to talk about each one of these with a little bit more in depth between real-time detection, smart tracking, automated routes, and change detection. Let's start with the real-time detection. Much like the Matrice 4E version, we are able to detect people, vehicles, and boats. But remember, all of this is done in FlightHub 2. So not just in Pilot 2, all of this supported in FlightHub 2. We've got a nice video of a construction site where we're looking over and seeing people. If you are looking for cars, we've got a busy intersection there with a bunch of different cars, as well as our alerts turned on, and our alert functionality is also supported in FlightHub 2 as of today. And if we are looking to track boats as well, we do have that functionality already built into FlightHub 2. We can also have it set up for being able to send warning messages directly in FlightHub 2 if you need to have a specific asset be alerted to you. whether it's a person or a vehicle or a boat that you need to be alerted about. We also not just can detect where things are, such as people, boats, and cars, but we can also start tracking some of those assets. So being able to have the gimbal camera automatically follow the object that you need, much like the Matrice 4E there. But we, once again, bringing all of this functionality into FlightHub 2, where you could be sitting at a remote deployment area where you have large screens. You're going to have that virtual cockpit mode where you're going to be able to operate this drone very, very efficiently from a distance. We can also set up some automated routes. If you are looking to patrol a certain area and utilize some of the AI for patrolling to find how many people or how many boats, or if a car has gone in a certain area, you're going to be able to set up those automated routes and then get alerted when something is found in those automated routes. So you can see we have a docks, or we have a main base on the far north side, but have it scan along the bay and be able to detect if there are any boats that are going to be close or any people. So you set up an area that it's going to fly. And then from here, within this little cove, now it's going to be able to inspect for you and alert you if anything needs to happen. And while it's doing that, it's also going to be taking photos for you. So when it's back in FlightHub 2, you aren't going to need to be sitting there and watching and, okay, it's something that we didn't recognize. I want to make sure to take a photo of it. If it recognizes through AI that it found something, it's just going to take a photo for you, so that when you log back on, it's going to be all saved within FlightHub 2 within your photo location, all based off of folders for the mission that you were flying. So if you need to just quickly flip through anything that the drone found throughout the day, you're going to be able to do that. We also have some tools to be able to detect change. So if you're going to be doing not just a routine inspection, but if you're going to be doing routine mapping to understand change, you will be able to do that as well. So if you fly more than one time over a site, and especially if you're using the Matrice 4D, where you're getting that inch level accuracy, then you can use our new analyzer tool to be able to detect change from one date to another. So you select the 2 dates that you have flown or captured. You also select the change detection size based off of what you are looking at. If you want very small changes, you can set that down to just a couple feet. If you are looking for vehicles moving, you might want to set that at 10, 12 feet as well. So from there, you're going to get a detailed report of everything that it determined that it found as a change from one map to the next map. We also, if you're looking to automate those inspections, you can use Dock 3 and FlightHub 2 to be able to fly remotely. And while you're flying, you can use the mouse look feature to be able to click and just focus on the specific asset that you want. So you can click, you can see as the mouse is moving around, and as I'm flying the drone, it's just going to stay focused specifically on that asset. So no longer are you having to not just fly the drone, but then also having to control the gimbal, basically doing all of your gimbal up, your gimbal down, and even turning the drone a bit. A lot of that can be done just by mouse click and by clicking on where you want to inspect. We also have a select and zoom feature that's going to be able to help you easily focus. And then as you zoom in on it, it's going to be able to stay focused for you. You're also going to notice that in FlightHub 2, it's going to give you what the footprint is of the camera's field of view. So as you can tell from zooming in, we have a very wide footprint. And in that satellite map, or if you have a 2D map or a 3D model overlay, you'd be able to see pretty much exactly what the drone is looking at when it's flying. So there's a lot of the functions and the intelligent side of FlightHub 2. There's also a lot of improvements that have happened with FlightHub 2 when it comes to mission planning, when it comes to smart 3D capture, and geometric and slope missions. So just be watching some of the improvements there. Just keep up to date on FlightHub 2. When it comes to Dock 3 specifically, though, a lot of the functions that I just showed you are available today. When we get into regulatory compliance, there's a lot here that we wanted to make sure that this dock was functional and operational and safe no matter where you deployed it around the world. We've got customers from all around the world that are looking to be able to utilize a remote operation. So we need to be able to do that safe no matter where you're at. So if you are looking at the United States, or North America in general, it's BVLOS ready. We've got a lot of document templates already created, especially for the United States when it comes to getting BVLOS waivers for Dock 3. And that's something that if you feel free to reach out and we can help your team be able to utilize some of our templates and submissions. Now, those templates do include FlightHub 2. So you would also want, if you don't already have a dock solution, take a look at registering for FlightHub 2. You'll need to get screenshots and things in there. But we have a lot of the document template ready so that if you're worried, not that the hardware's if it's gonna work, because we're really, really positive and we've tested a lot with that. A lot of the question now becomes, how legal can I operate this and how quickly can I get a BVLOS waiver? And with our templates that we can help you with and be able to supply you with, it makes these waivers generally, I believe the FAA is saying around a 90-day turnaround. But with that, we had to show to the FAA and be able to have a lot of different hardware capabilities to make sure that we're flying safe. So an environmental monitor, having a wind speed sensor, having onboard cameras for the dock, having the drone remote ID capable, and having all that functionality within FlightHub 2 as well. Emergency landings, being able to see manned aircraft within FlightHub 2, that's another great one that we've been able to see. Even earlier this week, I came across an issue or an incident where there was, shouldn't say incident, but basically where a drone was flying and they were able to see a manned aircraft that was about 2 miles away. And it alerted them to be able to know, just to monitor that airspace a little bit closer. We also have that improved obstacle data. You saw the live terrain follow feature, being able to keep that drone flying safe. A very robust system, so something that we can really ensure that it's going to fly safely with IP ratings, as well as some really high wind resistance and operating temperatures. And yeah, just a lot of, as well as custom flight areas and FTS and geocaching. There's a lot of tools that you would be able to use if you really need to make sure that the drone is never going to leave that job site. So with that, we do have new geocaching tools within FlightHub 2, where now you have an area where you can set as your flight area, your main flight area. and then you can have a brake area, and then a true FTS trigger to make sure that's on board with the drone to make sure that it does not leave that operating environment. You can set a lot of that geocaching all within FlightHub 2. So within the organization settings, you can toggle on geocaching. And then from there, you can make annotations to select where you want to lock that drone into on the site. We also have a number of documentation templates. It's the same type of thing that we have done with previous versions of Dock. We want to make sure that if at all possible, you will have a smooth process to get these docks operational and certified to fly BVLOS. We know that that's generally the largest holdback of implementing these, because we found that a lot of customers and clients, the value has already been there for Dock. It's just making sure from a legality wise that everything is situated there. So with Dock 2, we created a number of different templates so that people can download those templates. Clients can use them to be able to submit their own with the FAA. And the templates are super easy. You insert your name, your company's name in a couple different areas. You take some screenshots within FlightHub 2 of the job site that you're looking to fly. You'd look at the airspace a bit and you go ahead and submit them. No real major headache or lift that you need to do. I know a number of people that have already got theirs submitted. So yeah, feel free to reach out when it comes to that documentation. When it gets into data security, if you are looking to host data within FlightHub 2, if you're looking to process data within FlightHub 2, obviously live streaming, we have a US-based AWS server that is ISO 27001 certified. We've gone through a lot of security and compliance work to make sure that our FlightHub 2 instance in US and in the EU are both very, very safe and can be used from very, very large organizations. So ISO 27001 certification, as well as 27701. And you feel free you can take a look. I believe that they are registered through BSI. But we do have even further security functionality if you need. We have an on-premise solution that is going to be really only Dock for your site, for your company, and it will never touch the actual internet. So you're going to have an offline environment where you have a LAN server. If you need to have a very secure site where that data never touches the internet, the live stream never has a chance of touching the internet, you can set up an on-premise FlightHub 2 version expected the back half of this year. All right. And now we're going to be talking a little bit more about how we make this solution a well-polished solution. And that's done through accessories. So let's talk about each one of these accessories a little bit more. The first one being the DRTK3, something that we did launch. The actual base station we launched earlier this year, but now we also have a fixed deployment version with a hard mount. So think of this as being able to set the dock up on the ground, and then you could set just the DRTK3 up on top of the building or up on top of the highest location. And then from there, we're going to be utilizing the DRTK for corrections if we need to. The dock is going to be able to get corrections for setup, for configuration, as well as this is going to be able to be used as a repeater. So you no longer do you have to get the whole dock and everything up there to make sure that you have good connectivity. You can have the dock closer to the ground as long as you have safe operating environment for takeoff and landings. You're not too close to a building, and then just have the relay on top of the building. We also have a new obstacle sensing module accessory. It's something that I have not been able to test out at this point. It's also currently only available for the docked version, so not the Matrice 4E at this point, but it does support the Matrice 4D and DT. And with that, being able to avoid very, very thin structures. And as you can see with this video, going through a very dense substation where we have thin wires, thin structures. From what we've found, obstacle avoidance wise, thin wires, thin structures, such as the wires here or trees, those are generally the hardest when it comes to obstacle avoidance, and nothing is perfect. But now being able to have a full stack solution when it comes to obstacle avoidance allows you to fly in environments like this. So we have on board the drone already visual obstacle avoidance, and those cameras have been improved over the Matrice 3D. We also have the radar modules. Apologies, not radar modules, but on the obstacle sensing module, you're going to have both radar and then a LiDAR module as well. So LiDAR is really going to be able to help you detect those thin structures, even at speed. Being able to avoid 12 millimeter wire at 15 meters per second speed. So flying at over 30 miles per hour and still being able to find those thin structures. That's the density of LiDAR is really important there. And like I said at the very beginning of this presentation, if you are looking to do a mobile deployment, we require you to have a vehicle mounted gimbal mount. That's going to protect the gimbal on the drone from too much vibration, too much moving around, potentially breaking while the drone and the dock are in the back of the vehicle and the vehicle is moving. So if you're looking for being able to do those mobile deployments is just an additional thing that you'll want to make sure to include so that the drone stays protected and doesn't get damaged. Got a little video there. There we are, of it just sucking up against the camera. There. Think of it just as the silicon suction mount for the Matrice 4E, but just slimmed down and being able to grab the camera. We also support the real-time speaker and spotlight modules for the Matrice 4D. So with the speaker, you're going to be able to do real-time broadcasting. If you have a computer or a module that has a microphone, something like this, you're going to be able to live talk into the microphone through FlightHub 2. I'm not sure if this has video. We're going to turn the audio off, but then you can see that option there if you have the payload on, and you can just click to record and start broadcasting live. You can also select a pre-recorded audio message if you want to. If it's something that you're going to continuously play, or a police siren, something like that, you're going to be able to do that. You can also import in so media imports. You can also text to speech. So if you need to just talk and you can type, but you don't have a microphone, you're still going to be able to communicate with that person or play something that has been pre-recorded. So you can import media in, pre-record your audio, record it live, try to talk to that object or subject live, or do a text to speech. And then the spotlight, that AL1 spotlight is gimbal following as well. So as the camera looks up, looks down, you're going to have that gimbal follow for you for inspections, whether you're looking down at a subject or you're looking up underneath a bridge trying to do an asset inspection, because sometimes you are going to need a light to do some of these inspections just to be able to illuminate that area, especially if it's underneath something or just in a dark environment. Or obviously for public safety, search and rescue, being able to illuminate the scene visually, not just the near infrared, but now we're trying to actually visually illuminate the scene. It does support two different modes. You can either have it just be on, Or if you are looking to signal to that person, you can have it set to strobe. I'll go ahead and pause it there. Don't need to have too much more flashing, but there we are. So we walked through all of the different accessories that are specific for Dock 3. You're looking at the RC Plus 2, obviously, to be able to fly the drone, but the DRTK3 and being able to have that new fixed mount for the DRTK3, having the spotlight, the speaker, having that new obstacle avoidance module, which I am super, super excited about testing. So a number of different accessories to make it, no matter what use case you are diving in, this drone and this dock probably is going to be able to support it really well. So let's talk about the actual use cases that we've been able to test Dock 3 on already. When we look at the United States, the first one that we have is public safety for Kent County. This one is Kent County spans in Western Michigan a number of different environments. They do have both city, town environments, that urban environment, as well as some very rural environments where you get a lot of trees and a lot of foliage coverage. Since 2018, the Sheriff's Department has been utilizing drones, but they were looking for something that could be utilized a little bit more remotely and not have to have a person operating the drone on the site or have to drive out to the site to launch the drone. So you get that site, you get that overview at HQ. When it comes to environment and when it comes to testing, Western Michigan is a great place to test for cold environments. You're definitely going to get, especially in winter, you're definitely going to get the extreme cold, but you're also going to get some of that snowfall. And you can see the track of temperature, and this is all, I believe, in Fahrenheit. So the warmest that it got for the entire month was it just touched 40 degrees, but the majority of the time the Dock 3 was actually below freezing. And if you look from January 18th out to about January 23rd, we had temperatures, minimum temperatures dropping single digits even below zero. So very, very challenging cold environments, and we still had safe operations. They are currently utilizing visual observers at the launch locations, as well as Part 91 waivers for their operations for over people and BVLOS. Kent County is one of those public safety departments that we have been really impressed when it comes to getting waivers to be able to utilize some of these dock operations and the remote deployments. Some of the other use cases that Kent County found very, very valuable is that quick response, being able to launch in 10 seconds, being able to just get the drone airborne and get to that subject faster. Having that fly to mission makes it super easy to get the drone, instead of having to manually fly the drone, being able to just tell it, I want to go here, and it going there for you, and then you refining it in manually. And you have very flexible response when it comes to a lot of these tools and how you're going to be flying it, whether it's the automated inspection and using the AI to trigger photos and reviewing those later, or having a lot of the live inspections or live deployments, as well as a fixed, whether it's fixed to a fire department or a police station, or if it's a mobile deployment in the back of a cruiser. All right. There's also a couple other interesting videos from FlightHub 2. Being able to have just that updated live control, being able to use the mouse click, just click around the scene. I want to look a little bit over this direction, a little bit down, a little bit left, a little bit right. It just makes operations, especially for someone that either isn't flying a drone very frequently because they're mainly focused at at a desk, they're focused on those remote operations. A controller in those situations doesn't always make the most sense. And sometimes just having a mouse and keyboard and being able to click and say, I want to look here, is a lot simpler than having a controller and trying to fly it manually or flying it manually using key inputs. You also have the select and the zoom for the scroll wheel. That is also a really nice touch. So if you need to zoom in, zoom out, you can do that very, very quickly just by scrolling rather than having to like click on a button or use the bottom right side to click and zoom in and zoom out. There was another one that we have based a little bit closer or in the Pacific for being able to patrol. I wanted to include this one in here just because it is a very, very interesting one for being able to spot different marine wildlife and have those routine missions and mapping missions right there at the site. We'll go ahead and play this video quick. And then we also do have one other use case when it came to Dock 3. When it comes to construction, we have been able to partner up with Layton Construction as well and utilize their dock on a Dock 3 on one of their job sites. This is a vertical construction site, so being able to install that on a site and then being able to completely capture this vertical construction. So a lot of Dock 2 operations and Mavic 3 Enterprise and Mavic Matrice 3D operations, we're really focused on 2D capture, large scale 2D mapping. And now we have been able with Dock 3 and some of the smart functionality with the Matrice 4 series, be able to go and capture that capture it vertically. So being able to utilize the 5-axis smart oblique that the Matrice 4 series camera can do, being able to fly over that site very quickly, make a 3D model, and then from that 3D model, start being able to plan missions, both whole site missions with 5-axis smart oblique, as well as slope and geometric missions to be able to automate the capture of the entire site. And then from there, you can see being able to capture as the building. This is a building that is continually being built up. So we have a geometric mission that we will kind of keep expanding as the building keeps going up another, I believe, 6 more floors. But currently being able to fly the bottom 4 floors, only taking 17 minutes. That's that 0.5 second capture speed and capturing 1,715 photos to build a really high quality 3D model. So being able to automate inspections even just mere feet away from the asset. And that's something we haven't been able to test it yet for this site, but being able to use something like the obstacle sensing module to make sure that you have safe operations, even when you are now flying quite a bit closer to the asset. And then from there, we do have the ability of processing some of that data within FlightHub 2 as well. Just another feature set that every time that you're going to be able to go and capture this site, if you want to, you can then queue that up within FlightHub 2 for live for cloud mapping, and then being able to export that data directly out of FlightHub 2. And apologies for jumping around a little bit. All right. And a few other use cases that we do have, but I do know that we want to save some time at the very end for questions and answers. But Enel is a very large company based in Europe, in Spain, and they have been able to utilize Dock 3 to be able to deploy both Dock 2 and Dock 3 at a power plant to be able to test the performance side by side. So they've found a lot of the improvements for manual inspection with that mouse click and the tele cameras. So a lot of their inspections they also were finding were, that 5 to 15 to 20 meters away. And that's where having that 3x tele camera, that mid tele camera, being able to have really high quality photos from that in that mid zoom level has really helped. And also being able to get up and underneath with that gimbal angle of the tele zoom now being at 7 times, being able to really get up and under and look at assets. They also have been able to do real-time monitoring of construction vehicles and just make sure that safe operations are going on during the construction site. And also, we know that construction doesn't always take place during the day, and so all of our low light improvements are going to be very valuable for monitoring construction even late at night. You can see even the vehicle AI is picking up on that excavator. We mentioned this earlier as well, and I haven't seen too many tools out there that do this, so it's pretty exciting to me being able to capture 2 different dates and analyze them to see what has changed. Oftentimes it requires you to kind of tell and input what you're looking at, but with FlightHub 2, being able to just detect change, just general change, we found can tackle a lot of different use cases. And so just being able to dial in the right polygon size for your changes, it makes it super, super easy to see very quick response. And you get that PDF that shows you all of the changes. So if it's something where a site manager doesn't want to have to be using the UI and log on to a website, you can literally mail them a PDF saying, here's everything on your job site that has changed. Let me know if there's anything that you need to draw attention to. And finishing up here, we do have just a couple overview specification slides. So if you want to take a screenshot, take a photo, you're more than welcome to. This is going to be your Dock 3 packing list, as well as the different versions. So if you are looking for the United States, it's just going to be your universal version. And then you also have the Matrice 4D and with the RC combo. So you don't need to buy the dock. You could buy a completely standalone solution. You get that backpack that's also a hard shell case. You're going to be able to put the RC Plus 2 in there and have the battery station as well. You can see that battery hub there and multiple different. It can accommodate up to 3 different batteries. We also have the accessories compatibility. So if you are looking currently, this is all currently, that may change in the future, but if you are looking to implement any of our accessories, it will tell you which drone and which platform can function with. And a couple other just specification slides if you need to take a look at what is supported and what's not. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to the questions and answers. And so if you have any further questions, definitely get them in the box and we will start working through those. Perfect. All right, let's start at the bottom. Cool. So first question that came in, how are people dealing with BVLOS regulations in Canada with this unit? That's a great question. I did go through and talk a little bit about BVLOS earlier in the presentation. I would say that our team in North America is working on building regulatory templates for Dock 3 as well. We were working on them for Dock 2, and now we also are working on them for Dock 3. And so I would say reach out to, we're also training our enterprise dealers or giving them support on being able to, and educating them on how to submit them. So I would say reach out to your enterprise dealer or feel free to reach out to us and we can talk a little bit more about Canada specifically. All right. Is the IP rating for the dock open, unfolded, or closed? That the IP rating is for all operations. So even if it is very heavily raining, the drone is still going to, the dock can still open up, land, and you still have that protection. Paul, will there be an iOS version of the Enterprise app in the future? That's a really good feature request. We can pass it along to the team. Let me see. We did get a question here about pricing. So unfortunately, since I'm on the solutions engineering team and not on the sales team, that is one of the questions I really won't be able to get to you, but it's another one where reach out to your local or your most trusted DJI enterprise dealer, and they'll be able to help support you there for pricing. What is the power supply criteria for the Dock 3? That is also something that we can follow up on as far as how much power output we've been seeing the Dock 3 use. But generally here in North America and the US, we're just using 110 for power. So nothing crazy. We've even seen these units be set next to like generators or even large battery banks. To be able to be powered at least for a little bit of time, or even off of a vehicle. So we were able to do a demo of a Dock 3, our team has, and we utilized a Rivian, and the Rivian has a power output in the bed that's higher than what the Dock 3 requires. So we do know a Rivian works well. Cool. Well, we will give one more minute to get any other further questions in. There are some questions in there yet that we will need to just kind of follow up a little bit later. But yeah, want to make sure that if you do have any further questions other than right here, you've got the resources of your DJI Enterprise dealer. You can look those up on our website, and we have locations so you can find your nearest one. I also would recommend looking on our DJI Enterprise YouTube channel as well as our DJI Academy YouTube channel. Both of those have a lot of great information about use cases, about these drones on the enterprise side, as well as hosting this webinar will be on the YouTube channel. So without further ado, thank you very much, and we really appreciate joining the webinar. And until next time, thank you all.